Joins us. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Terrific. Dan is the NASCAR fantasy racing lead writer for NASCAR.com and for YahooSports.com. And Dan joins us tonight to give us his wisdom, impart his knowledge, tell us who we should be picking for the tricky triangle, which is where we're going next.
Yeah, and fans aren't particularly complimentary about Pocono from time to time, but fantasy owners should be. This is one of the better tracks to try to handicap, especially given the schedule that we're coming off of.
Yeah, I would think the fact that you're coming off of you weren't at, it wasn't all that long ago that we were at Pocono before. You're coming off of Indianapolis, which I would think is probably as similar to Pocono as anything on the Cup Series anyway. Am I wrong there, or am I right?
You're right. But in addition, New Hampshire 2 weeks ago and Kentucky right before Daytona is also another flat track, even though I tend to group it in with the cookie cutter or the similarly configured mile-and-a-half track. Mm-hmm. Those three, when taken together, I think allow the drivers to develop some momentum and give the players a good opportunity to try to ride that momentum. In fact, 7 drivers posted back-to-back top 10s in the last 2 races, and there were another 5 who finished in the top 15 in both races.
Dan, with the recent repave in the first race, there was kind of like a crapshoot. A lot of people just kind of didn't know what to expect. You have a kind of a small sampling size. Where do you go when you're trying to figure this race out? Do you go to those tracks that they ran at most recently? And I hate to use the momentum word, but do you try and use some of the momentum?
Absolutely, and that's primarily what I'm looking at this week. With these 3 races, New Hampshire, Indy, Pocono, back-to-back, it's been a great time to place and hold drivers, which is a little more difficult to do in the Yahoo game than it is in something like a salary cap game. But it does give you a definite sense of who's getting the rhythm for the flat track. Then we've got Watkins Glen. It's a road course, but it's another rhythm course, interrupted by one race, and then we're back to another flat track. So we've got a period of time right here where we've got a great opportunity to look at the driver's recent schedule. And the 2 things that I look at largely are a driver's record on a track or a track type and their recent momentum. And now we've got those 2 things combined. The track type is virtually unchanged for this month, and recent momentum then mirrors what is going on that track type. So I think that gives us, I wouldn't say it makes picking easy, but it certainly makes picking a favorite easy. Then you throw in all that other stuff, engines, mistakes in the pit, and it becomes a little more difficult again, but you've got that every week without the benefit of having the track type being similar.
Again, we're talking to Dan Beaver, fantasy sports expert for NASCAR.com and YahooSports.com. Dan, when you talk about looking at results on the given track and similar tracks and then momentum, do you have a formula? Do you use? Do you have a percentage that you weigh momentum in there? Is it 25% of the decision? Is it, I don't know, is it 50? What is it?
I actually have a relatively complex formula that shoots out raw numbers and ranks drivers for me. And then when I have a hard time picking between one versus the other, I kind of go back to that power ranking, the fantasy power ranking formula. And it rewards drivers who ran strong, not just where they finished. So average running position that NASCAR Statistical Service gives us, laps in the top 10, which I whack from Track Pass. And then I'll do that for this track and similar tracks. So for Pocono, I'm also looking at the driver's recent record at Indy, New Hampshire, Phoenix, and then to some degree Martinsville and Richmond. So the formula, someday I'll share it with you guys, but it'd take too long to describe it right now.
No, that's cool. I always find it really interesting to pick the brains of you guys that are doing this, basically full time. There's not one way that you all do it. Everybody's got their own their own stew that they use, and I would like to see how you come up with that. It would be too complex for me. I'm kind of like, I put these numbers together, and if it doesn't look right, then I just look at Steve and pick whoever he didn't pick. And usually it works out, but or else I just watch who Beth took and copy that. So,
who do you like as far as your Yahoo game, your A, B's, and C's for the week?
I'm looking at drivers who finished in the top 10 during the last 2 weeks in both A and B, and that's going to put Jimmy Johnson and Denny Hamlin at the top of the list. Denny Hamlin has actually, they both have run particularly strong on flat tracks all year. Johnson has 4 consecutive fourth-place finishes at Pocono, a 5th back in 2010, and a 5-race top 10 streak to his credit. Hamlin struggled at Pocono last year, but he does have the back-to-back victories in 2009 and 2010 to recommend him, and he's been perfect in regard to scoring top 6 finishes on the flat track so far this year. So those 2 guys are going to go on my preliminary roster, and I'll probably make the final decision based on who has the best average speed in practice if they both do 10 laps, or who qualifies the best if they don't. In B, I think you got to look at Earnhardt and Newman. For that same reason, they've been particularly strong in the last couple of weeks on flat tracks. They've been good overall on flat tracks. Earnhardt still has a bit of a knock on him about winning races. He's only got the 1 victory at Michigan to Johnson's 3, but he's been much more consistent throughout the year. So he certainly makes a great pick for Group B. Beyond him, I think we're looking at Boyer and Biffle. They both have been strong in the last couple of weeks, and they both have strong flat track records. And that's going to make it fairly easy to pick your favorites in A and B, I believe.
Do you give any? Oops, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you real quick before you give me your C's. Do you throw in any of the desperation at all? Guys like Edwards and Gordon who have to get wins. Does that figure into your formula at all?
If anything, it's an intangible that could scare me off of them. It would scare me off of Edwards more than Gordon. Gordon's been there for quite some time and has proven that he can finish on either side of fifth place in the last couple of weeks. So I think Gordon has kind of worked out that delicate balance of he has to win, but he also has to score enough points each week that he overcomes, I guess at the moment, Kyle Busch, who's sitting in 11th. So he's either to get 2 wins, which is throwing complete Hail Marys, or he's got to have decent enough points that he can climb up the roster so that he can overtake one of those other guys, even Casey Kane, if he can get more than 2 wins. So I think Gordon's settled into that rhythm where he's okay. He's not much of a danger to himself unless there's a late race restart. So long as there are late race restarts, I don't think Gordon will ever win another race. If we get a long green flag segment towards the end of one of these events, he's got a shot. For Edwards, though, it's uncharted territory, and I think he might be more prone to panic because of that than Gordon. So I'd be scared off of Edwards for the next couple of weeks. Also because he's not a particularly strong road course racer or flat track racer. So this is a dangerous part of the schedule for him.
All right, we've got about a minute to go, Dan. Who would be your pick if you were if you have to make a Hail Mary and pick a winner for Pocono this week?
It's going to come down to Johnson and Hamlin. I think Hamlin probably more than Johnson just because he's been more consistently strong on flat tracks. Pocono's been one of his better courses throughout his career, and he's I think he's due to win at Pocono again. So Hamlin would be my guy.
All right, he's Dan Beaver. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Fantasy Race. Read his fantasy advice and predictions at NASCAR.com, which comes out live, I think, Thursday morning and then or late Wednesday night, and on YahooSports.com. Dan, thanks again for your time this week. Good luck with your prognostications, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. I'm here whenever you guys need me.
All right.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Dan Beaver.